Hostility between races is exploding online right now.
Slap the hell out that baby. Make that baby brainless or something for a while. That's what happens when you grow up with racist parents.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Everyone's tired, everyone's overwhelmed, and we're all exhausted from watching the world fall apart, and most of us don't know what to do with the tension anymore. Without any real solutions, the chaos hasn't just continued, it's gotten louder and uglier.
I won't where you bitch. Stop me sitting going to
They can call you hard ER today and get $1 million tomorrow. And it'll all get swept under the rug because they all still have their teeth.
We've come to realize that we're all about to wake up in a very different world soon, and this moment right now marks the tipping point. So what's really going on underneath all of this outrage? And more importantly, before it's too late, how can Christians step into the chaos without becoming part of the problem? To understand what's really happening, we have to look at the two events that everyone's reacting to and why they've become a tipping point for so many Americans. A few weeks ago, you probably heard the story about a kid named Austin Metcalf who was fatally stabbed at a track meet by another teen named Carmelo Anthony. And despite Austin's dad saying that this wasn't about race and begged for people not to turn this into a race war, that's exactly what the internet did.
I just have one thing to say on behalf of the Black community. We don't care. We don't care, okay? The same way you don't care about Trayvon Martin, yeah. And I'll say that with my whole heart. We don't care.
Anti-white race hatred is so profound that a black student can stab an unarmed white teenager.
But this was only the start. Things got much worse as soon as this happened. Carmelo's family set up a fundraiser, which quickly raised nearly $600,000, which left people online split and enraged. Those who defended him making the money claimed that the stabbing could have been in self-defense and that the money was raised so that Carmelo could have a fair trial, while those who are opposed to him raising money claimed that the money was raised as a way of celebrating a crime against the white kid and essentially condoning murder. So after this, tensions were already super high, but they got even worse after this happened. Just last week, a video went viral showing a white woman named Shiloh Hendricks at a park in Minnesota allegedly calling a 5-year-old black autistic child the N-word. And when asked why she said it, she defended her words.
Him the child? Did you call the child the word? It is my own business. You call him a Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again? Okay. All right, that's what you say. A little kid, you call him a The little child?
But that's not even where things went crazy. This was the start of the tipping point. Hendricks launched a crowdfunding campaign, doubling down on her statement, and claimed that she and her family were facing threats and needed help relocating. And the fundraiser skyrocketed, raising over $700,000 in just days, surpassing the amount that was raised for Carmelo Anthony. Supporters say that the fundraiser isn't about what she said, but about pushing back on cancel culture, defending free speech, and in defiance of the white guilt narrative. While those who were opposed to her raising money are claiming that the reason why she got so much support is because she's racist, and that this is essentially about people wanting to condone racism. And ever since all of this went down, a digital race war has exploded on platforms like X, with so many people saying absolutely horrific things about the other race. And this isn't just one or two people saying things like this. Literally thousands of people have been openly calling for violence or hatred, or retweeting statements of violence and hatred towards the other race, as calls for segregation keep continuing to stack up more and more each day. But the more that this race battle continues to evolve, it's become more and more apparent that these events are more than just controversies. They've become symbols of something much deeper and much more dangerous to our future. These events are about what they triggered in all of us. I mean, just take a listen to what both sides of the debate are saying now.
So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity.
And underneath what's being said, what we're really seeing is that both sides feel like their experiences are being dismissed. Both feel under attack. And what we're left with now is race baiting from both directions, identity politics on both sides, and a contest over who's the greater victim as everyone claims systemic oppression against their group. And by the way, I'm sure both sides would be more than eager to explain why their claims are legit and the other side's isn't, but to say that would be to miss my point. Because my point is this: what I've come to realize is that it's easier to recognize genuine problems or even misdiagnosed problems when we're on the receiving end of it. Of course, there's exceptions, but our personal experiences and history shape how we view the world and what we notice. And if we're not the target, we easily miss those subtle things that others might see every day. This is why most non-Christians don't see prejudice against Christians, even though a lot of us believe that we see it. It's why Jewish people on the left like Ethan Klein and David Pakman were quick to call out what they perceived as anti-Semitism, while the rest of their non-Jewish group dismissed it as non-existent. It's why women on the right have called out what they see as misogyny coming from those like Andrew Tate. Now, the point is not whether or not these people are right, but how people within certain groups may be sensitive to what they perceive as attacks coming from the outside while dismissing it when others claim the same thing. It's happening all across the board, and it's fueling a dangerous pattern where everybody's experiences feel invalidated, which makes everything worse. The end result of both sides feeling ignored is that we're locked in a cycle of retaliation.
Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Every reaction becomes fuel for the next one, and now it's no longer about right or wrong anymore. It's about defending your group because it feels like our dignity and self-worth is on the line. So we react, we generalize, we moralize, we snap back, not because it's wise, but because it feels like survival. And when that sense of threat runs deep enough, people will justify almost anything to protect themselves. This is why we're now seeing people go so far as to openly defend violence and racism. And the real problem in all of this chaos is this. Most of us feel like we're stuck between two bad options: stay silent and get streamlined by attacks on our race, or strike back and slowly become what we hate. Part of why we feel so stuck is because we're constantly being pulled by outrage and often only seeing one side of the story. That's why I'm happy to have Ground News as the sponsor of today's video. Ground News gathers articles from over 50,000 sources and shows you how they're being covered across the political spectrum, letting you see the full picture. For example, when it comes to the fundraiser for Carmelo Anthony, over 94 sources have covered it already, and out of those, 37% of them are right-leaning and only 15% are left-leaning. And just take a look at how the bias is coming out and how they're reporting it. The right frames it as his parents being rewarded with $445,000 for his violence, while the left frames it as Carmelo raising the money to go into hiding after receiving so many death threats. The bias couldn't be more clear. And I also love the blind spot feed, which highlights how stories are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. For example, out of 34 sources, 0%, that's right, 0% of left-leaning sources have covered the fact that Planned Parenthood's annual report shows a rise in public funding and abortions, which is a massive blind spot. So Ground News has become a valuable tool for me, especially as a Christian seeking truth and integrity in media. And if you want to try Ground News today, go to groundnews.com/whatdoyoumeme to get 40% off of unlimited access to the Vantage plan. So thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring this video. And now back to why outrage feels like it's the only option left and what it's quietly doing to us. So people are striking back at racism with more racism, more threats of violence, and more moral compromise, letting their character erode in the name of defending themselves in this race war. But if this is war, then what exactly does victory look like? Is it raising more money for your side, destroying the other person's reputation, or getting them fired? And will any of that actually force the other side to back down? Political voices have trained us to get louder, and we're rewarded for doing so with callousness or cruelty. They tell us that this is the only option left, that we tried to turn the other cheek, but it doesn't work because the other side is just too evil and wants us eliminated so that way they could destroy the country. But here's the catch. The more that we take their advice, the worse things get. The more that we scream, the less anyone listens. The more we retaliate, the more emboldened our enemies become. The more immoral that we act and justify it as a necessary evil, the more morally confused everyone gets. Just take a look around. Outrage isn't fixing anything, it's just creating new villains. And besides, yelling at people and shaming them won't change their mind anyway. In psychology, it's called psychological reactance, which shows how aggressive tactics like shaming or yelling usually make people less likely to change their mind, not more. So as the cycle of reactiveness continues to grow, nobody feels more seen, nobody feels more heard, no one feels more healed, and no one's desiring more peace because the problem isn't just a reaction. It's what we used to feel righteous, what we cling to when we feel unseen. It's about something that I call value makers. You see, we've all been distracted by these surface debates, but if you've ever thought, why does everything feel so personal now? Well, this is why. We as humans are painfully insecure. We're constantly searching for ways to feel more valuable, whether it's through success, intelligence, fitness, relationships, beliefs, or even morality. The things that we subconsciously depend on to justify our sense of self-worth are what we can call value makers. We all have them, and they're usually good things, but they become dangerous when we treat them as foundational to who we are. We're constantly going to these value makers to tell us why we matter, and the easiest way to feel more valuable without even having to do anything is to look down on others who don't have what you believe makes you valuable. Think about it. If you're in shape, you'll feel better about yourself if you choose to look down on those who aren't in shape.
Stop eating! That's why you're fat!
In politics, we tell ourselves things like, I'm valuable because I'm on the right team, because I have the truth, because I'm more moral than they are. But when our identity is built on these things, we start seeing others as less because it helps us feel like we're more. And this habit, it becomes like a drug. We need more and more of it to keep our self-esteem intact. And today, one of the most powerful and fastest growing value makers is our racial or political tribe. It works because it promises instant meaning, instant moral clarity, and a ready-made enemy to look down on. So once you understand that, you start to see how racism and so much of the online outrage today isn't just about hate. It's about people desperately trying to feel valuable through their tribe. The only problem is, when your race or your group becomes your ultimate value maker, every insult to that group feels like a threat to the very foundation of who you are. That's why people go to extremes, why they defend the indefensible, because it feels like they're defending their very identity. But like virtually every other value maker, seeking comfort in your tribal identity won't make you more secure in who you are, but only more insecure. You'll crumble when your side loses, when your group gets mocked, when you don't feel affirmed. And when your identity is built on something that fragile, you'll always be on edge, always defensive, always reactive. And today, everyone has a little bit of snowflake in them.
And then look at them. Snowflakes.
So I hope you can see by now, this isn't about politics or outrage. Fundamentally, it's about misplaced identity. And now that we see the real battlefield, maybe we can finally stop fighting the wrong war and actually fix the problem. The problem isn't that we have value makers, it's that they've become so foundational to our identity when they were never intended to be. They can't fully affirm your self-worth because they were never designed to. And as Christians, out of everyone, we should know this because of the gospel. You know that you've truly internalized the gospel when you can know in your heart that Jesus didn't just die for you, he died for the very people who hate you. The people that you can't stand, the absolute worst racists in the world. You know that you've internalized the gospel if you know that, while also knowing that you're no more deserving of salvation than they are. And if that feels unjust when you look at them, it's because it is. It is unfair for him to offer them salvation. But it's also true when they look at you and believe that it's unfair for him to offer you salvation as well. You and your worst enemy are valuable because you were loved enough for the God of the universe to die for you. And not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but only because he offered both of you his grace. And this is why the gospel takes away the illusion of self-superiority. If you truly believe in the message of salvation, then how could you possibly look down on the other team or feel superior to them because you found Jesus and you're saved? The truth is, you can't. And that's the kind of value maker that changes everything. It frees you from needing to win the argument just to feel okay. It frees you from the cycle of outrage because your value isn't up for debate anymore. You don't have to defend your race like your worth depends on it. You don't have to drag the other side down just to lift yourself up. Your identity is no longer built on the tribe, it's built on the cross. So yes, fight for justice, but don't fight like the world. Don't cling to your tribe like it's your salvation. It's not. This whole world and all of these worldly titles causing division are fading away. Jesus didn't die to save your race, he died to save your soul. So speak the truth, but do it from a place of peace, not panic. From grace, not ego. From a secure identity, not a fragile one. Because in Christ, you were fully known and fully loved. You were worth dying for, and not because you had the right views or anything good that you've done, but because of who he is. And when that's your foundation, you can finally stop fighting for your value because it was already secured at the cross. Hey, thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. It really does mean a lot and it helps us in the algorithm. Now, if this video shook you, even just a little, it's because we're not just dealing with headlines. We're dealing with spiritual deception dressed as tribal loyalty. We make videos like this because we believe that Christians need clarity in a culture that's full of confusion and the courage to follow Christ without compromise. But creating this content takes hours of research, writing, editing, and planning, and right now, I'm doing most of it myself. And to keep up with what's happening in the world, and to go deeper without compromising truth or quality, I'm working to hire my first full-time member to help carry the load. So if you've ever watched one of these videos and thought, man, more people need to hear this, supporting on Patreon is one of the most impactful ways that you can help make that happen. And if that's something that you want to help build, not just support, then I want to invite you to join me on Patreon. The link is down below in the description, and it really does help more than you probably realize. All right, so thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.